Hello, hello. It has been ages since I did one of these. This one hopefully will be less lengthy than Mystic Heroes or Ride to Hell, though those aren't exactly comparable. Ride to Hell was certainly much longer than Mystic Heroes. I've wanted to play Rogue Warrior for ages, and I just never got around to it, even though it was a pretty cheap game, because there were just always more important games to look into, and this was never very high on the list. But if you know me, you know how... Wait. Oh, the game's stuttering. That's something about this game, is that getting it running on PC was quite the hassle. And in order to stop this stuttering that you're seeing right now, I will have to unplug the keyboard and mouse, which is odd, but I will get to that. Now that I've unplugged the keyboard and mouse, it should be the case that the stuttering seems to have stopped. Getting this running on PC was quite difficult. Not only would it constantly stutter and slow down while the keyboard and mouse were plugged in, but in addition to that, it would just plain crash frequently, and I had to make several modifications to the game's folder to stop that from happening. I would have preferred that it just ran as it was supposed to on startup, but it is only $5, and it's much more convenient to have this game on Steam than to purchase it for the PS3, because you have to plug in the PS3 and my computer is always plugged in. And this one has achievements, though that might not be worth much, considering I'm sure some of the achievements are multiplayer achievements, and I don't think anyone plays the multiplayer, even if it is still active in the sense that it's functional. I doubt anyone actually plays it. Maybe you could buy this for friends and get a party going together. But the primary reason I wanted to play this game is simple curiosity. This is considered one of the worst video games, and you know how I feel about that, right? I think that people's reception to video games is gravely overblown. I think that it's too sensationalist. People don't tend to look at games for what they actually are, and instead just ride the bandwagon, or else greatly exaggerate a game's negative characteristics. So I like to play and experience things for myself, for the same reason I like to check evidence for myself in real life. I want to determine on my own terms whether something is true or not, where that's viable. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes other people have knowledge I just don't, and I have to accept that. This is not one of those situations. Rogue Warrior is readily available to purchase on Steam, and I can play it, so I can test for myself whether it's as bad as everyone says it is. The game plays fine. Like, no matter what anyone says, it's not like it's non-functional or any such thing. The controls work. When you shoot someone, they die. There are some physics glitches here and there, and it's generally quite lacking in polish. But seeing a game in this state being called unpolished or broken is kind of quaint now. Like, yeah, the animations really need an extra layer to finish them up, and there's no recoil on some of the guns, and the enemy AI is pretty terrible. But comparatively, with games that are released in the year of our Lord 2019 and onward, 10 years after this game was released, this is pretty fine. Like, this game works. I've played several critically acclaimed games from a decade after this was released, which function much less well than this. And that is sad, but, you know, this isn't Ride to Hell, though while we're at it, as buggy as Ride to Hell was, it's about on par with modern game releases. So, hopefully you heard me repeatedly clicking the melee kill button, because I was repeatedly clicking it, and the prompt was there to do a melee kill, but our protagonist just was not happy with I guess, the spacing between myself and that gentleman, so he decided not to do it. which is unfortunate, because the melee kills are fun. They're incredibly grotesque, seemingly by design, and there are large amounts of them. I would go so far as to say it seems like a significant amount of the budget was devoted to developing melee kill animations. Some of them, several of them, are context sensitive, visceral in their violent creativity, and there are situations in game where you can just go quite a ways exclusively. What's this? I don't remember this gun. You can go quite a ways exclusively doing melee kills, and that's always neat. Personally, you might have noticed this game is a mix of wrong wall. You might have wrong wall. You might have noticed this game is a mix of third-person shooter and first-person shooter. Personally, where viable, I prefer the cover-based combat mechanics to the first-person combat mechanics, just because I'm very familiar with how third-person cover-based shooters work. And this controls like a third-person cover-based shooter when you use the third-person cover mechanics. So I feel at home when I'm capable of using those mechanics. It just works better for me than the first-person shooting. That's not to say that the first-person shooting is inferior. It is a lot more versatile than the third-person shooting. And it's not like you're incapable of taking cover in first person. It's just there's no dedicated cover button like there is for the third person mechanics. We haven't gotten any of the really violent melee takedowns yet, unfortunately. The thing about this game is that although it's famously bad and famously violent, it's really not that remarkable, I think, overall. Like, it's a shooter, right? You go into rooms, there are red dots on your radar, you shoot the red dots, they blow up or bleed out all over the floor. Sometimes there are funny ragdolls, and that's the game. The story is equally unremarkable. I understand that it's based on a real-life figure, but that doesn't do anything for me, never has, and I don't really have any interest in military operations. It does seem like the events portrayed here are highly fictitious and meant to be highly fictitious, so that way they pander to a particular demographic who enjoys this sort of cheesy action film, cheesy, gritty action film, I should say, aesthetic. But it doesn't really do anything for me in particular. Now, if this were a buddy cop game, then we'd have something to talk about. Buddy cops are some of my favorite movies to engage in, and there's not many buddy cop video games, in spite of the fact that the genre is so prevalent in cinema, and I feel like we could do with more of those. Rico, the first-person shooter Rico, is a pretty good buddy cop game, but it could be better, because the thing I enjoy most about buddy cop cinema is the way the characters grow and change to over time to better appreciate one another and their own unique styles, what they bring to the table. And in Rico, it's solely an arcadey experience. So even though you and your friend are working together as goofy cops to solve crimes and bust down doors and shoot bad guys, there's no real character development to it all. And oh, thank God it didn't crash. Sometimes it crashes after that cutscene. And I'm sure that there have been buddy cop video games in the sense that, you know, I know Brothers is a thing. I know It Takes Two is a thing. I think that's what it's called, right? But you're not cops in those, right? Not to my knowledge. I could be mistaken. And the aesthetic of buddy cops is really what I'm after. I took way too long to stealth kill that gentleman with my silenced pistol. So now he has alerted his friends. That's on me. Oh, I killed him. I did think it would go that easily. The story in this game, as I was saying, I'm not particularly fond of. I don't think anything of it. It is funny that the main character curses so much, you know? I am a human. I think it is very funny that the main character curses so much and says so many funny curse words all the time. Yeah, here's a particularly violent one. Look at that. There's also just sort of an appeal to me in how poorly they convey everything through the animation in this game. It's not like it's non-functional or anything. You can tell what's happening. But these don't... None of it really feels convincing. None of it has any real weight to it. The gore is certainly underwhelming, even if the actions being carried out are brutal and gruesome. And I don't know. It's not awful. Nothing about this game is particularly awful. It's kind of fun to play as someone who's played a lot of third-person shooters because, you know, when I can engage with the third-person mechanics, it's like being back at home. I've played so many of this kind of game. Might as well be playing Ride to Hell. Might as well be playing, I was going to say Mind Jack, just because I like bringing up Mind Jack whenever I can, because I believe Mind Jack is a genuinely good game that got a rather brutally unfair response. But this game is nothing like Mind Jack. Ride to Hell is also nothing like Mind Jack, and that's primarily because Mind Jack's gimmick is a huge part of the experience, and you can't really separate it from that gimmick. And in addition, Mind Jack has RPG elements, which I often forget about, but they are... It is important to remember that they exist exclusively because they put a big damper on the experience. The fact that Mind Jack has RPG mechanics is weird. It makes it harder to enjoy the game because you really need some of the upgrades you get from toying with the RPG mechanics. They're downright essential to beat the game in single player. And the game is brutally difficult. Like, I don't want to mince words. Mind Jack is a tough game. The enemies are real bullet sponges. There's at least a couple places where it's poorly conveyed what you should be doing. I just think it balances out with the level design and general creativity that the game offers. So it's not all bad or even most bad, I would argue. But the fact that there are RPG mechanics greatly impedes the game. It makes its vision harder to appreciate. It is the case, I think, that the progression mechanics probably exist because there is a multiplayer component that was heavily advertised. I can tell there's a man down there who knows I'm here, and that if I go down the rope, he's going to shoot me. So I would... Ah, there he is. So I would prefer to kill him ahead of time, if possible, because I'm not keen on being shot while descending. From what I understand, this game is about 2.5 to 3 hours long. I've seen other people play it before, but seeing a game played and playing it yourself, very different experiences, those. There is something to note about the reload animations in that even when our character, Mr. Demo Dick, has finished his reloading, in the sense that you see him take out the clip and put in another one, that doesn't mean the reload is finished. The animation has to play completely before the reload is finished. And if you interrupt it at any point, he just starts over. And that is a bit awkward, right? I feel like that's something that should have been sorted out with some polish early on in development. But this game had a bit of a troubled development cycle. It switched between developers, and oh goodness, I was getting shot pretty badly. It switched between developers a few times, and this product that we're playing right here was made by Rebellion, Rebellion developments, and I actually really, really like Rebellion as a developer. They've made so many third-person shooters and general action games that I greatly appreciate. And in addition, they're responsible for the Sniper Elite series, which I understand quite a few other people like, even if I've never played it personally. But they did develop Never Dead, that's the name, Never Dead, which is one of my favorite third-person shooters. I believe that it, like Mindjack, was grossly underrated and got an unfair, brutally scathing reception because it just wasn't what people expected, and it's weird, right? Like, it doesn't have the features or polish that fans of third-person shooters expect. And I understand that that's cause enough to many people to give the game a pass or just outright say that it's bad. But I don't feel that way about it. I feel like the things that it does in being so weird are worthwhile. It's also the fact that people who play Never Dead rarely engage with the physics mechanics, and the physics mechanics are sort of the point. People often complain about the enemies being bullet sponges, but the idea is to survey your environment. I'm getting shot to death. Is to survey your environment, find the nearest physics object that you can collapse onto the enemies, and then do so. And that kills them so fast. The fact that your normal guns are inadequate to shoot the monsters down is not an accident or an oversight or bad design, I would argue. It's just how it's meant to be. The idea is to discourage you from playing it like a normal shooter. And I think it does that adequately, even if, by all accounts, people still tried to play it like a normal shooter. And I wonder how much of that has to do with changing design sensibilities. A lot of... Sorry, I wanted to look at that guillotine. A lot of games that I think would have been celebrated for their design in previous generations don't get the same luxury here. Like, I'm quite famously fond of Balan Wonderworld, right? And I think it's just the case that Balan Wonderworld came out at the wrong time. And that it would have been greatly successful as a niche 3D platforming experience some generations ago. And I think that's just because people look for different things in game design now. But because I'm someone who plays games from all generations and all time periods, I don't really see design that way. I think that if a game has good design, it always has good design, right? Like, when you're developing a game, you have a vision or central idea or central ideas in mind. And I gotta burp, one moment. You have a central idea or central ideas in mind. And your design is built around those ideas, built to support those ideas. And if your design does adequately support those ideas, I think that's it. Case closed, you've designed a good game. But that's not how most people see it. And it doesn't help that most people aren't terribly aware of the shifting tides of how art's perception changes with time. Because it does. It has massively. I'm still waiting for cover-based shooters to come back. I really liked cover-based shooters. But it seems like everyone else is pretty done with cover-based shooters. Like, they don't really want any more of that in their life. But I was always a huge fan of that genre. And maybe once we've wound down a bit, it'll come back. But I don't know. I mean, Gears is still around, right? Gears 5 was a couple of years ago now, but it's still around in the sense that I certainly don't think that Microsoft plans to stop making Gears games. But as I was saying, I think that I think that the biggest issue with games like Balan Wonderworld, or games which try to do something novel while appealing to a rather traditional challenge-focused design, is that at this point, people have found out what they want. And experimentation, which was so commonplace. And are you dead? Oh, you are not dead. Excuse me. Yes, there we go. And experimentation, which was so commonplace in early 3D gaming, has fallen to the wayside in favor of repeating what works over and over, just reiterating on that as much as possible. And I'm not a big fan of that. I think it homogenizes things a fair bit, but it also can't be helped, unfortunately, because video games are made by companies to make money. There's no getting around that. And if you find out what people want, and you can market it well enough, you make money, right? I still think that Balan Wonderworld is a masterpiece. It's currently tied for my favorite 3D platformer with One True Hero, both for very different reasons. But Balan Wonderworld is undeniably more creative and unique. And I think that Mighty Number 9, honestly, there's a lot that went wrong with Mighty Number 9. A lot. The expectations of the demographic that it was catering to were vastly out of sync with the actual product, right? And there's no way for me to win here. Like, I could tell you, like, if I backed the Kickstarter, would that give my opinion more weight or less, right? I didn't back the Kickstarter, but I think that if I did, I would not have been disappointed with the finished product regardless. But that's the thing, is that even if I did back the Kickstarter, people would say that my opinion was tailored positively because I'm suffering from the sunk cost fallacy, that I want it to be good, so therefore I'm just perceiving it as good regardless. But I think that its design is good. I thought I killed this man. I think that its design is good. It has an idea it's trying to communicate. I think it communicates it well, and there are many ways it could be better, but it tried, and I think succeeded, to be a natural evolution of the Mega Man games. Now, people like to point out, Mega Man X did this and this so much better, and I'm not in a position to say. I have not played Mega Man X or Mega Man Zero nearly as much as the original Mega Man games. So I'm not in a position to say whether Mega Man X or Mega Man Zero did this or that better. Maybe they did. I still feel like, regardless of that, Mighty Number 9 is a good successor to Mega Man's legacy in gameplay and spirit. But that's just how the cookie crumbles. I do hope that KG and Yuji Naka get to make more games someday. It seems like they're not in a good spot, right? It seems like people aren't very happy with them right now. I know that KG Inafune, I think that's how you say it, had some mobile game he was working on that's now shut down. I don't know what he's up to now. Hopefully he's doing something creative, because he's a creative guy and he deserves to be making something. And Yuji Naka just straight up develops some of my favorite games. Well, okay, I don't mean to make it sound like he's solely responsible for the games that he's worked on, right? Because he's not. A lot of people are involved in a game development process. But the design that he brings to the table, the ideas that he brings to the table when he makes games, I greatly enjoy. And I loved his work on the Sonic games, especially the 3D Sonic games. Knights is fantastic. Rodea the Sky Soldier. It's greatly underrated. I recommend playing the Wii version, not the Wii U version. That's its own can of worms, how Rodea's development was handled, but the Wii version is the version that Yuji Naka intended to release, not the Wii U version, so I recommend playing the Wii version of that game. And his studio also made Let's Catch, which I am so immensely fond of. I think it's I think it is one of the best games our medium has to offer in terms of storytelling and communicating simple, challenging design in an effective way. It's charming, it's got real emotional depth to it, and while the mechanics are simple, it's got that addictive arcadey quality to it, where you can do it again and again and again until you've perfected yourself. There's also elements of storytelling built into the mechanics, like Catch is a two-person game. As good as you might be at throwing and catching the ball, your partner also has to be good at throwing and catching the ball. And sometimes they aren't, and that's okay. That's just an inevitability of playing a game with another person. You can't get mad at them. You can't get upset that they're not catching the ball the way you want them to. You just have to accept that not everyone is perfect. I mean, you haven't caught that ball perfectly all the time. I hope I don't blow myself up with my own grenade. You haven't caught that ball perfectly all the time, have you? I certainly doubt it. And that just lends itself well to the humanity of Let's Catch, I think. That, you know, life is uncertain, it's confusing, but if we take the time to listen to one another and really open ourselves up, be surprised at... I'm pressing the kill button, please! Oh, thank God. If we take the time to listen to one another and really open ourselves up, I think we'll be impressed at what we find in the world. Should really give that game another play. I do have it on my Wii U. I'm really grateful that I was able to get that before. I don't really want a shotgun, but I guess I've got one now. I'm really grateful that I was able to get that before the Wii store shut down. Though the Wii U store is shut down now, isn't it? Or at least it's effectively shut down. I don't believe you can purchase anything from it anymore, which is a great shame. I don't publish any of my own creative works because I take a very punk approach to what I create. I make things in a very particular way to say very particular things, and that's just how they are. And if people don't like that, then I don't know, I'd probably not handle it well, right? And it's about knowing yourself. It's not that I have a problem with people disliking the content of my art, because that's happened before, even among close friends who I do share my art with. But the idea that someone would see my art and then be like, you should add this or that, or you should have done this instead of that, without seriously considering what the vision was behind what I was making, that would drive me crazy. And so as much as I write and draw and all these other things, I don't like to share those things for that reason, because I don't think that people are ready to listen to each other enough for me to put myself out there like that. And I'm perfectly happy with the fact that the people around me enjoy the art I make, right? I used to not be. I used to feel bad that the things I made, the thousands and thousands of hours, the quantity and quality of soul, and just the general labor, the mental and emotional labor that I put in to making these things, made me feel like more people should see them and that I'm doing something wrong because more people aren't seeing them. But that's not the case, right? Like, what matters is that the people who do see my art understand it and understand that it came from a passionate place. Oh, the objective marker's over here. And the people who do consume what I make, they're very happy with that. I'm very happy that they're happy with it. You know, it may not be easy to practice this idea that we hear so often, that we should just focus on our own world, focus on saving our own world, not the world at large, that we shouldn't chase fame or fortune, and we should instead take pride in how we influence those around us, how we make them happier, how we enrich their lives. It's hard to be content with that, all right? It's normal that it's hard. You're not a bad person if that's hard for you. And that's because humans are social creatures. But if you can obtain that, right, I do think there's a lot of merit in it. In the idea that we should just focus on our own worlds and not the world at large. Because it will drive you crazy. I've been there. And it's especially prevalent when you have a YouTube channel and you do that for income, as I do. Because you have to be thinking, to some degree, about the world at large, even if you'd rather not. And I am incredibly thankful that the people in my life and who comment on my channel, on average, are incredibly understanding, kind individuals with open hearts and minds. That's done me a great deal of good, and it's incredibly heartening to see that that's the kind of audience I've attracted with my content. I'm really happy about that. But yeah, it used to be fairly difficult for me to be content with what I had. I think it's difficult for a lot of people, if not most people, to be content with what they have. But I'm getting there bit by bit, and starting to realize that, like, the time I spend creating art for the people closest to me, and creating worlds and ideas for the people closest to me, that I'm not sure I could or would trade that for any amount of fame or greater recognition for my efforts, because I'm not sure it's worth as much. Like, it's tempting, you know? It's very tempting. What is this that I'm picking up? Okay, that's the... Okay. I was out of ammo, so I really needed to switch guns. This is the first bit in the game that I would call, like, genuinely challenging, I think. You have to really slow down and engage with the shooting mechanics for this bit. I exclusively missed that man. Most of the time, if you're clever about it, you can just sort of melee kill and sprint your way through things, but here you gotta be a bit more careful, be a bit more judicious with your aim, your spacing. I don't know how that man got over there. It really seems like he shouldn't be over there, because there was an explosive barrel and a dead man over there, and I don't know how he got there, but I probably just wasn't paying attention. Have you noticed that our protagonist's hair is, like, glued to him? Oh, a grenade launcher. Okay. I don't remember seeing this gun. Apparently I'm very good at aiming it, though. I disagree that did not kill that man. I think that it definitely killed him, but I'll shoot him a second time just for you, Rogue Warrior. Why did he come down? Why do you think he came down? And then ran. like, I wouldn't have known he was up there. So for what reason did he come down here and then flee? It would be one thing if he came down here and then immediately opened fire on me. That I would understand. Like, maybe he was just really bloodthirsty. He really wanted some of what I've got. But he came down here and ran. I feel kind of bad for shooting him, but unfortunately, especially right now when I'm trying to actively be entertaining while playing something, I can't really provide too much critical thought in who I am and am not shooting, which when you think about it is pretty rife with possibilities as far as can I okay, hold on, I'm so confused about how, okay, there we go. Sorry, I'm trying to press up to get out of cover, and sometimes it's working and sometimes it's not, and I think that's just because I'm trying to get out of cover at a weird angle. But anyway, the fact that people are less likely... Oh, wow, I got a blind fire headshot. The fact that people are less likely to pay attention when they're trying to entertain others through live gameplay has a lot to say about how we consume games now. Because a lot of games, a lot of art, right, is made with the idea that people will be engaging in their design critically, that you'll be actively thinking while playing. And if you're not actively thinking, then you might miss things. Please kill him. Please kill him. Thank you. I gotta burp one moment. As I was saying, you might miss things in the design if you're not actively paying critical attention to what's going on. But that's how a lot of people consume video games these days, is in a live format in front of an audience. And when you're trying super, super hard to be entertaining or bring up thoughtful talking points, it's excruciatingly difficult to give the same critical attention to the works of art you're consuming. That's perhaps the biggest reason why, although I'm aware that people enjoy my unscripted content like this, and why people have greatly enjoyed the few times that I've tried to live stream with varying degrees of success, I don't like doing it personally. Because even though it would get me closer to the people that I like, that being my commenters, and it would greatly help me financially, because the few times I have live streamed or produced this kind of content, it has gone over very well. It just feels wrong. Everything about how I consume video games necessitates that I create an informed opinion on them. That I take my time, really soak in the design, think about what I'm seeing and hearing and experiencing, and work from there. The reason that my Balan Wonderworld review took as long as it did, in spite of me caring greatly about its relevancy, is because I really wanted to take my time to absolutely make sure that what I said had real weight. I wanted to test all of the mechanics and push them as hard as I could, and be absolutely positive that I wasn't just talking out of my butt. But a lot of other people just don't give the same sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Rigorous attention to their opinions, I suppose is the word. And, you know, that's fair. Not everyone's a media critic. I try very hard to be a media critic. I care a lot about media literacy. I care a lot about what art says, why it says it, how it says it. And not every consumer is like that. They have their own things they're good at, and that's fine. I don't mean to downplay that or say that people need to be more like me. That's a terrifying thing to say. If you ever catch me saying that, please do let me know, because I want to avoid it if possible. But I still, I don't know. Oh, please kill him. I'm a little scared that multiple times the melee kills have just not registered. Anyway, as I was saying, like, I don't know. I see a lot of love, right? In the things I consume. And I just want to help other people see that love, too. And not just in art, but in life and people in general. I'm not sure if I've explicitly said before, but the way I consume video games is very similar to the way I speak with other people. I try to figure out what their deal is, in the sense that I would like to listen to them and figure out what their circumstances, how it affects who they are, why they're making the decisions they are, how I can help them reach their goals in life. And it's worked out pretty well on average. Generally, people enjoy my company and find what I have to say insightful, and I'm grateful for that. I think that, I don't want to use the word blessed, but I think that I'm very fortunate to be in that circumstance, right? I keep forgetting about the objective.
Happy 4th of July, motherfuckers.
I think this is the part where things catch on fire and... Yeah, no? Yes? Is this the part where things catch on fire and... Yeah, okay. And it acts like this is some big set piece. I do like the fire effect on the ceiling. I actually really like that effect. I don't know if it's accurate. Like, it looks fantastical to me, right? But I wouldn't know. I've never been in this situation personally. Have you? Or have you known someone who has? Or have you looked this up before? If so, please tell me whether the fire crawling across the ceiling like that is accurate. If it's not accurate, I don't think that makes the game any worse, because I think it looks really cool. But I still want to know. I think it's neat. It would be beneficial, I think, to have our character, Mr. Demo Dick, react at all to the fact that everything's on fire and he may suffocate and die. But that might also go against the sort of power fantasy macho man thing that this game is going for. So it might be putting the cart before the horse. I think I used that phrase properly. I really need to pay more attention. I have been doing remarkably well, I think, given how little I record live gameplay. But most of the time, I'm also regularly talking to my roommates while playing games, so it's not like I have no experience doing this. I just don't usually do it on the air, so to speak. Are you dead? There's still a red marker there. I don't think you're dead. I'm gonna throw a grenade, okay? Alright, the grenade got him. The grenade got him, boys. We did good. That grenade wasn't high enough. Hold on. I blew the cover up, I think, so that's ideal. I'm gonna run for it. Running for it was a bad idea. This is exactly the same mistake I made last time. Use the elevator. Use the elevator. Please. You could say I learned from my mistakes. You'd be wrong. There is a night vision mode. Maybe I should turn that on. I don't really feel like it, though. I kind of like the way that the gunfire lights up the dark room. I think that's neat looking. So, I don't really want to turn on night vision. Got him. Let me take cover. Wrong place to take cover. Yes, okay, here is good. Is that a TV box? I think there's a picture of a remote, so I can only assume that that's a TV monitor that I'm looking at right there. Is it advertising that it comes with the remote? Maybe right next to the flare wasn't the best place because it was kind of hard to see anything. Because there was flare smoke right in my face. So maybe parking myself right next to the flare next time is not what I'm going to be doing. Now that's learning. Assuming that I successfully don't take cover next to the flare. That's learning. I could still take cover next to the flare in spite of my previous assessment that it was a poor idea. I might have to take cover next to the flare. Or here. Here is good. Here's fine. Not ideal, but fine. Can I shoot that? Is that an explosive barrel? I can't tell. Probably not. I think I shot it a bunch and it didn't blow up, so probably not. Can I throw a grenade up there? I don't think that the grenade made it up there. It did! It did! That grenade definitely made it. I'm so proud of that grenade right now. Okay, this is probably a much safer place to be taking cover. Especially since this is I swear I shot that guy so many times, but that's fine. We all make mistakes. My eyes are probably just dumb. That's all it was, I bet. You know, I thought that might explode. I don't know why I'm surprised it did when I thought it might. But I still was surprised. Can you back up a little? Thank you. It's just, you were really in my space. I'm going to put on those night vision goggles. There we go. It is so much easier to see now. I was deliberately making this more difficult for myself, and I died again. I was deliberately making this more difficult for myself, and I really shouldn't have been, just because I liked the way a particular visual effect looked. This is a very... This game feels like the sort of game that people think... Sorry, I'm trying to focus. This feels like the sort of video game that someone who never plays video games would imagine when they imagine a video game. Alright, oh, I got him. You shoot a bunch of dudes in this game in a bunch of ways. It's extremely masculine for no particular reason. It cares a lot about violence and appearing tactical and cool when it's absolutely too try-hard. And I think that's charming in its own way. Ah, I completely misread that man's location. Let's see if I can just melee everyone to death. I'm sure that this is going to go very poorly. I can't melee that guy up there, I can tell you that much. I've gotten into the habit of tapping the button rapidly because of how many times I swear the melee has just decided not to work. You might notice that the enemies do their icons on the minimap. The radar, that's what that's called, not a minimap. The enemy icons on the radar do change color, and the reason they do this is to indicate whether an enemy has currently seen you or not. Which stealth, not super prevalent in this game, so it's kind of odd to me that they would expend the resources on that, you know? Not to say that it's unwelcome. Having a way to know definitively whether you're in danger at any given moment is helpful. It's just also strange that that was a priority in the design to me. I'm gonna retreat and get the guy on the stairs. I thought I was still ducking, I was not. I didn't put the night vision on. But yeah, it's strange that that was a priority in design to me, because it just seems like, of all the things that could have been done to make this game more appealing and functionally whole, it's not really one of them, I think. Like, I would just as soon get rid of the stealth mechanics entirely if I were focused on making the game more pleasant to experience, just because there's so few instances of their usefulness. How do I take off my... There we go. Like, whenever you can engage in the stealth, it feels almost entirely scripted. Like, it's time for the stealth bit now. And though maybe that's just because I haven't been using the silence pistol. I'm just assuming, I suppose, that as soon as I walk into these rooms and men notice me, that it's inevitable. It might not be inevitable. There might be many ways to play the game that I just haven't considered. And maybe never will consider. Not because I'll never play this again. I might. It's functional. It's not offensive to me, or any such thing. You know, if I ever need to just pop out of cover and shoot some people, you can do worse than this. I have done worse than this. But if I'm ever in a position where I want to play this game again, it probably won't be because I'm trying to find something in it that I hadn't previously. And maybe that's sad. You know, maybe Rogue Warrior deserved better. Maybe it didn't. Who knows? I'm like I was saying, I'm probably not in a position right now, the way I'm consuming this media, to say much about the game's artistic vision from a critical place. If it has an artistic vision, the people who made this, I'm positive, cared about making it. You know, I don't believe that the people who created this game just turned it in to turn it in. I think that it must have been hard to make this game, given that they probably knew from the start that it wasn't going to be well received, no matter what they did to it or how they did it. I think they probably knew from the beginning that it wasn't going to go over well. But that doesn't mean that they didn't care, I think. I believe that they cared. And it takes much more effort and love and time to create these things than I think most people will ever understand, because most people don't make video games. Most people don't collaborate on large projects of this nature. I think most people don't even create in general, in the sense that they put together stories like this, let alone stories with interactive components. Especially not for the consumption of especially not for others to consume. I mean, nowadays, this game could probably be made without the assistance of... oh, it blew up? Did I do that? I probably did that. A game like this could probably be made without the assistance of a AAA development studio like Rebellion. I don't think you'd need Rebellion to make this game anymore. Especially given that it's not a particularly... Did I kill him? Yeah, especially given that it's not a particularly long video game or particularly intensive graphically by today's standards. For 2009, honestly, I don't think this game looks that awful. There's so much that could have, like, in terms of texture quality, I mean, I don't think it looks that awful. Yes, it looks like a late Xbox game. I acknowledge that. Xbox original, I mean. I almost said Xbox One. The Xbox One is not the original Xbox. It does look like a late original Xbox game, and I concede that. But I don't think the character models and textures and general environments and graphical effects look all that bad for 2009. I don't like that the snow is staying still because the camera's moving up, but I don't think this game is garish. But the animations are pretty bad. They're just missing a lot of details that are taken for granted in other media. Like the transition between cover states is missing a lot of frames that would make it look much more human. But I've brought up such things before. Like, oh, I'm not having a bad time playing Rogue Warrior. I'm not having... The snow effect is really tripping me out. I'm not having a bad time playing Rogue Warrior. I'm not having as nearly as good a time as I was playing Ride to Hell. But that's because Ride to Hell has so many more things to appeal to me in particular. Its story is bizarre. Its acting is bizarre. It's a beat 'em up as well as a cover-based third-person shooter, two genres I love. They even threw some driving in there just for good measure. This is so much easier than what I was doing previously. No, please. You took cover on the part of the hedge I really didn't want you to take cover by. I can't tell you whether that's my fault or not. I'm sure that the footage that you're watching will bear out whether it was my fault or not. I do wonder, I suppose we'll find out shortly, but I do wonder who was responsible for writing this game's narrative, because it seems entirely, I don't know, trivial sounds a bit mean, especially since I don't know enough about military operations to say whether that's really the case. But this game's story seems like, oh, hello. I don't know how I didn't see you. This game's story seems like it wasn't made for people to get invested in. Like, it's just here as an excuse for you to go blow people up a lot. But maybe it's actually good Cold War fiction. Maybe it is. Like, I don't mean that to be humorous. I legitimately don't know. I don't know enough about the Cold War. I don't know enough about the man that this game is based on. I don't know enough about Russian or Korean politics in 1986. I don't know any of that stuff. I'm not the target audience for this story to begin with, but I am still curious who wrote it. That's something I'm almost always curious about, is who wrote things, because I'm a writer, and you can usually see patterns in writing fairly easily when someone who's written something has worked on other media. And I'm really curious whether the fellow who wrote Rogue Warrior is still out there working on other things. I cannot believe that it appears that the man who was behind that exploding truck had still lived. Okay, no, he didn't. That's a different red dot. Like, some people work on surprising things. From what I remember, the person who made Countdown Akira, that deeply psychological, artsy anime porn that I reviewed on this channel. From what I remember, the fellow who made Countdown Akira also wrote several episodes of Pokemon, and many generally child-friendly works. And that's just cool to imagine that someone had that level of versatility. I like to think that I do as well, but it's still neat, right? I should really get to watching the episodes of those shows that Countdown Akira's writer worked on, just to see if there's anything that carried over. Not in the sexuality department, of course, but in other ways. That there's a radar showing me exactly where the bad guys are, and I still walked into that room and got blasted. But there are many traits and tells that can be carried over between works outside of simply themes. Although themes commonly carry from one work to another if they're made by the same writer. I would have loved to see Anna Sewell, the writer of Black Beauty. I should really look up how to pronounce her last name. I would have loved to see what other literary work she would have made. Black Beauty used to be my favorite book. It might still be my favorite book. I need to give it another reappraisal. I love Black Beauty, the original work, not the remade version for children, which removes so much of the commentary on humanitarianism and animal cruelty and religion. I think that what they did to the book to make it more appropriate for children is a big no-no. After Anna, the author, died, they basically butchered the book because it's a book about a horse. And horses appeal to children, so they figured, hey, we changed some things about this book. It'll appeal more to kids. We'll get more sales out of it. And while that might have been true, I think it was also unconscionable. I think that was the wrong decision. I don't think it's okay to change everything special about that book just because it would sell better if you did change those things. And then again, I wonder in general how much people understand that art in general, almost all art, says things about us and means to say things about us. With Black Beauty, it was more obvious than most things that it was a commentary on the current state of animal treatment and the current state of the human condition in regards to animal treatment, among some other things. I was pretty blatant about that. But I've seen countless times where even in something as blatant as My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, people are almost entirely blind, to the idea that they're meant to be... I thought I could outrun the grenades. People are almost entirely blind to the idea that they're meant to be learning lessons from the work. That My Little Pony is actively trying to teach people things about our culture and how we treat one another and how we could do better as a species. Like, I cannot count the number of times where someone has taken a moral from My Little Pony, which is explicitly said, and just... They love the episode. They love the characters. They love the world building, but they don't take it to heart. They don't take what the show is saying and try to be better, even though that was the show's purpose, was to make us think, right? To make us think about how we treat each other. And yeah, it was primarily meant to make children think about how they treat each other. It is a show for kids. But the fact that adults can watch the show who haven't learned those lessons, because let's face it, most of the lessons children media try to teach us, we haven't learned ourselves. But My Little Pony Friendship is Magic was exceptionally good at teaching them in an entertaining fashion. There's so much more to appreciate about it besides the fact that it taught those lessons, but the fact that it taught those lessons so well and cared so much more about how it delivered them, delivering them in a thoughtful, compelling way that didn't intrude upon the world and characters, but instead gave them more life. And we still don't pay attention to the overarching morals or themes. That really drives me crazy. Then again, you know, it's not like all the morals were great. Some of them, especially in later seasons, were pretty terrible. In particular, Honest Apple is a disgustingly bad episode. It misunderstands media criticism so strongly. Like, if you're a media critic, you're doing what you do because you want to do it. Because you love your medium, you love the art in your medium, and you want to talk about it. And the way Honest Apple and so many other works of art portray critics is as people who are out of touch, who don't truly care about artistry and are just using the art to get clout or attention of some kind. And that couldn't be further from the truth in my experience. Like, the reason I talk about games is to show people how special they can be. It's not just games now. I talk about comics and music and films, but the reason I talk about art is to help people see how special art can be and why we should appreciate it with a kinder mindset than we're wont to do. And I don't know, like, the episode Honest Apple tries to make the argument that critics destroy art, but it inherently misunderstands who's responsible for art's destruction in doing so. Should really write up a video essay about Honest Apple at some point, because it is one of the episodes that I see the most quoted and most frequently used to shut down online discussion, which is frankly terrible, I think. Like, I don't... In a nutshell, the episode is about the idea that it's fine to have your opinion, but you shouldn't ruin other people's time with it. Which, if you say it like that, right, it sounds sensible enough. But the episode doesn't stop at sensible. So, the thing about opinions, everybody has them. You have them, I have them, your mother has them. Sometimes you hear them when you don't want to, but we all have them, and we all have to live together on this planet and accept that everybody has opinions, even ones you don't like. And that episode of My Little Pony is so concerned with the idea that you shut up and don't express yourself. If you have an opinion that people won't like, shut up and don't express it. That's what Honest Apple says. And that drives me crazy, because that's just silencing people. That's actively making us more ignorant. When people have a different opinion from you, you shouldn't take offense to that. You should see that as a chance to learn more about them. Learn more about how they see the world. Maybe learn more about the art you love through their criticism. Like, being upset that someone doesn't like something you like is one of the absolute least helpful things. And the episode is tainted by this whole perception that positivity is inherently somehow different from negativity, when it really isn't. Positivity is not inherently good, negativity is not inherently bad. And positive and negative criticism are both valuable as long as they come from a thoughtful place. But the way I see that episode quoted online, it's just always used to shut down people who are saying something is poopy, right? Like, let's say you like something, and I go on the internet, and I'm like, that thing's poopy. and you don't like that. You're welcome to not like it. You're welcome to not engage with me about it. That's fine. You don't have to stand around listening to me talk about how the thing you like is poopy. But I do think that convincing people that it's some moral wrong for me to dislike the thing you like and take issue with it, I think that that's going too far. Criticism is essential. That's how we determine what's good and bad to begin with, is with critical thought like that. And I don't just mean art, right? Art's relatively low. Like, I'm knee deep in art. My life is all about fictional art. It's all about video games and books and movies and television series, but art is relatively low stakes in terms of what you can criticize. But how we feel about criticism toward art carries over. It carries over into how we feel about criticism toward politicians or sports teams or our own behaviors. And we need to be able to accept that others exist who are critical of ourselves, of our work, without trying to silence them by saying the act of criticizing is amoral. It's such a bad episode. Not to mention the fact that if you're actively making the people around you feel immoral for communicating their dislike of something, you're just silencing them like they're your friend, presumably, and you're just telling them not to express themselves, that their expression is less valuable than yours due to some arbitrary division between positivity and negativity. And nobody who's agreed with Honest Apple's moral has ever been able, that I've seen, to also apply it to themselves. Almost everyone who agrees with Honest Apple's moral just as eagerly criticizes art as everyone else. Where am I supposed to... I don't know, I'm asking where I'm supposed to be going. There was a square objective marker in the middle of the screen. Something's blowing up. It's me. I'm blowing up. I'm getting blowed up real good right now. That's for sure. Ugh. Oh, my neck. I'm back at the start of the room. Well, it's not like the way I died was particularly difficult to get around. Like, that was absolutely avoidable. I could have just been slightly more patient and it would have turned out fine. I just thought for sure that I could mow them all down really fast if I put my mind to it. But that's the problem, is that I didn't put my mind to it. I just put my gut in it. And those aren't the same thing. Not by a long shot. I'm being so much more reckless right now. Almost forgot there was a cover-based mode that's helping immensely, actually, this cover-based mode, which I've been using for most of the game. You know, I did it again. You know, I was a little worried that because, unlike... No, get down. Get down, for the love of God. That because, unlike Ride to Hell, I had no intention to engage with the story of this game. That I might run out of things to say. But there's always stuff to talk about, even if not in this particular game. How did he get up there? Even if not in this particular game, there's always things to talk about. I saw the game autosave, so it doesn't matter that that man's loose. Bum, 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 bum. I believe, from what I recall, that there is one more level after this. I think we're darn close to the end, though. Which is good, because my neck hurts. This is an extremely suboptimal position to be playing games in. Or it could be really good. I don't know. The fact that my neck hurts right now might be a sign that that I'm sitting in the correct position for once in my life, because when you stand up straight after slouching your entire life, it doesn't feel great, but it's still probably a good thing that you're doing it. I just wish that my neck didn't hurt. It might actually even be better for me to just stand up while playing this. But that's not an option because of the way my microphone is placed. Hello? I assume the objective marker is... Okay, there we go. Yeah, let's call that one a mulligan, buddy. Nobody got what they wanted out of that. Let me try again. There we go. That's much better. That time we both got what we wanted. You got to confront me, and I got to kill you. Place a charge on the remaining missile. Can do. That is what we're trying to do, is stop these missiles from firing, right? That's all we have left to do. I'm trying to remember what the final level even is. For context, this is my first time playing this game through. As I've said, I've just seen other people play it before. I'm trying to remember what could possibly come after this. Let me swap this out. Is it accurate that the procure on-site weapons I'm finding would be better than the weapons that we already brought with us? We are an American, I think, Navy SEAL soldier. I could be mistaken. We are definitely an American soldier. That much is clear. Would it be accurate in 1986, I believe, is when this game takes place? Is it accurate that my weapons are worse? I don't know much about military history, but from what I've heard other people say, it seems weird that my weapons are worse than the ones I'm finding lying around. What? Whoa. Sorry, switched to first person by accident. Really freaked me out. I knew that grenade was going to kill me. I just sort of resigned myself to it. Did I just spawn in a spot where I got shot immediately? Was I being spawn camped in single player?
Fuck this goddamn shit.
I'm sure I'm getting shot to death right now. Alright, I'm gonna make a break for that cabinet. For grenade. Yep, run. That's ideal. Thank you. It actually worked out really well for me. I was kind of surprised the enemies did retreat. It seemed like they were not smart enough to actually retreat from gunfire or grenades previously. Sorry, there were explosions, so I was very nervous. I was nervous in the wrong direction, though, because those explosions were behind me. Is this game getting more difficult as it goes on? Most games do. I've certainly died more, right? I've died more as I've played through. But I'm legitimately uncertain whether that's because the game is getting more difficult. The only area with like level design that I can recall is that sort of dock area we were at, which I called the first really challenging part of the game. And for all I know, maybe it has been getting harder, and I'm just not thinking critically enough to properly realize what the level design is going for at this point. I can't take cover behind this wall, which is unusual. You can take cover behind... I can take cover on this box, but not this wall. I gotta burp. You can take cover behind almost every surface in this game. I would really like to take cover right now. Thank you. So grenade over there. Alright, I don't know if anyone got by that, but they sure seemed to funnel out of the room, which is what I wanted. I wonder if the game would be better or worse without the radar telling you where every enemy is. It would certainly be more challenging, right? You'd have to like actively look for your opponents instead of magically. I can't move while reloading, which was bad because I was getting shot. It would certainly be more challenging to have to actively search for your opponents than magically become aware of their position, because every time there's an enemy wave incoming, there are dots on the radar. But would that make the game better, do you think? I died. Because while I think I would personally prefer the kind of game where you do have to be aware of your surroundings and the enemies, I'm not sure if this is a situation where it would make anything better. And that's because you die real fast in this game. And I feel like the reason that enemies appear on the radar and you can so easily determine their near exact positions is because they knew that they made a game where you die really fast. And to minimize frustration, they wanted to be sure that you were aware of where the threats were and where they were coming from nearly at all times. Like, anytime I've been uncertain about where an enemy was or what they were doing, it's almost always because I just made a stupid decision or I wasn't actively looking at the radar. Like, in this room, I'm paying explicit, deliberate attention to the radar. And as a result, I was able to clear out the room quite easily.
I'm headed for a hydroelectric dam.
Oh, my neck.
Power to the sub-panel.
Ooh.
Soviets are installing a mobile ABM device.
Alright, I think that I'm gonna take a break here and come back. I need some water. I need to eat some lunch. But there's no way I'm just gonna stop here. Alright. Alright, I got my unicorn blanket. I drank some water and the milk. We're ready to go. So I think it's fair to say that I care a lot about trying to illuminate the design or artistry of artistic works to people. That's what I try to do most, I think. But also the sniper mission. But also, my videos are meant to encourage discussion. The goal is not to have people just categorically agree with everything I say, which is good because I don't think I could ever have that. It is to promote critical thought and to make people ask questions about themselves, the world around them, and the art they consume. And I like being able to do that for people. Because even when they disagree with me, sometimes strongly, that can be just as beneficial, if not more beneficial. Because disagreements teach us so much about other people and the world around us. But what I don't like as much is when someone quite clearly has a disagreement with me, but isn't engaging critically in the ideas I proposed regardless. And that's inevitable, right? That's just part of being human. There will be people who disagree with you, and they aren't able to state why they disagree with you because they haven't thought much of it. But I still would prefer that they do. This area is kind of unique. I don't know. I like it. I like how difficult it is to spot the enemies between all the pipes. I like that there's a good... Is this an explosive barrel? It certainly was. Anyway, as I was saying, sometimes there are people who just disagree with you, but don't care enough to think about why they disagree with you, or don't care enough to tell you why they disagree with you. And that's what bothers me most about the stuff I make, is that's inevitable, and I really wish it weren't. Like, a surprisingly large amount of the time, don't get me wrong, I get really great feedback, even from people who disagree with me strongly. But the times I don't, it's weird. Like in my Time Splitters Future Perfect video, I fully expected quite a few people to disagree with me. And some did. And I got a lot of good discussion out of it, both in my YouTube comments and in general. It was fun to make that video, and I don't regret making it, and I think I put together a pretty compelling argument for the way I feel about that game. But when someone comments something like L take, you know, I understand one thing from that comment they left, that they disagree. And that's fine. People are allowed to disagree with me. I think it's beneficial when they do, because then I can learn more about myself and about them, and consequently make better content for understanding more about myself and about them. That's neat. But I can't really learn anything from the words L take, besides that they didn't like the content, that they disagreed with something I said. No scope. And that's more common outside of my videos than it is... it's more common outside of my YouTube environment than it is inside of my YouTube environment. I'm very fortunate to have so many people who carefully listen to my arguments and try to engage with them, because that's not a guarantee elsewhere.
Don't mind me, assholes.
Ooh, is this another dark section? It sure is. We're also talking about, much earlier I think, the idea that not everyone thinks very critically about the art they consume, and that they don't necessarily have to. But I do think that there's a sort of tragedy in it, because especially in this day and age, where more than ever we're oversaturated, there's so much more art than ever before, pouring in from all directions. Because not only is it getting easier to make art, but there are more people. Even if making art was just as hard now as it was in 2009 when Rogue Warrior came out, I fully believe that we would still be oversaturated with art. And that's just because by nature, the more people exist and the more people consume art, the more knowledge about how to make that art will be passed on. And that's not inherently a bad thing. But it does mean that it is harder than ever for your art to stand out and get noticed. And I try really hard to still give all the attention to art that it deserves. You know, I play all kinds of things. I believe that all art has value. Rogue Warrior has value. That indie project that guy's been working on for years, that has value. That indie project that a guy was working on for 2 months and then released for 99 cents on Steam, that has value. But people don't have time to consume it all, and even though it's literally my job to consume it all, I can't do it either. And it's normal right? It's not a bad thing that you can't consume it all. You have to focus on what you can control. Need a video about that. Try and get enjoyment out of what you can. Don't focus on experiencing everything. I kind of like this level. I'm really enjoying it. I really enjoyed like the hide and seek quality of the last room, and I enjoyed the verticality of this room and its general openness. Anyway, there's this game that I briefly played on the Opera GX browser called Windmills. And the title, I'm fairly certain, is a reference to Don Quixote, the tilting at windmills quote. And the core concept behind Windmills, the game, is that the story is told from the perspective of an unreliable narrator.
Shit.
A very unreliable narrator. And not only does it have an interesting story to tell and interesting things to say about the way information is passed down, very similar to Tim Burton's The Big Fish, but hello, I didn't expect that. Very similar to Tim Burton's The Big Fish, but the gameplay is just plain engaging. And the sad thing is, as much as I was enjoying my time with Windmills, I don't know that I'm ever gonna be able to finish it. Not because I don't want to, but because there's just so much else vying for my time. And it certainly deserves to be recognized and played. I'm sure it has things to say that would change how I view the world. And that's one of the things I value most about art, is when art teaches me something, or teaches people in general, about the human condition. That's always exciting to me. And I think Windmills could definitely do that. But there's just too much on my plate. Like, this isn't the only thing I'm doing for my channel today. And I have a date later. 2 dates later. And I have to clean the house, and I have to clean the house. That's always a daunting proposal. It gets more daunting the more you let it sit. In the best of times, I really enjoy cleaning. It feels productive. It's nice to be able to do that for my roommates. But today, it's going to be about powering through, I think. Anyway, as I was saying, it's the sad, sad truth that there will be so many games like Windmills that I'll just never get to experience, no matter how much I think they're worth it.
Come on, hold your ball. Let's go.
And I don't know what anyone can do about that.
Son of a bitch.
Like, it's certainly a sad thing, but we can't stop making art. The reason there's so much art in the first place is because so many people have so many things they think are worth telling. And that's... It doesn't just extend to, it doesn't just extend to, fictional art either. But, you know, great philosophers and poets, they're not exactly thank you, Rogue Warrior. They're not exactly in short supply anymore. Great philosophers and skeptics are a dime a dozen, and so are great poets. There are people who write things now which are on par with the greatest writers in ancient history, and people arriving to conclusions that took philosophers so many countless years before, because we keep building on human knowledge. Okay, yeah, Doi is definitely the last level. I remember that much.
Ships out, guidance ship goes with it. If that happens, the Soviets can chalk up the Cold War as a win.
And I suppose, although many other people are telling me that AI-generated art will not bring about the art apocalypse, I think it will, but I hope to be wrong, even though I doubt it. In a way, the oversaturation that AI-generated art can bring to the world, threatens to bring to the world, was already happening in human hands. Because, excuse me, there's already way more art than we can consume and curate. And I don't know, it's just exhausting sometimes, isn't it? No matter, like, I could upload a video a day on a new thing for the rest of my life. I wouldn't scratch the surface. Even if I do live like the fully projected 2,000 weeks, I would not even scratch the surface. And that's just crazy. The vastness of human culture, and how the more of it we make, the less it seems to mean to people. It's inescapable and kind of depressing, but it is what it is. I am what I am. Need to watch the Popeye movie featuring Robin Williams. It looks really good. Unironically, it looks very good. Where are we right now? I have been deliberately skipping the cutscenes, of course, but I have no idea where we are or what we're doing anymore. I am so far removed from Rogue Warrior as a concept. As a storytelling concept and as a physical concept, I could not be more far removed from the idea of Rogue Warrior. I plan to shoot 0 people in my existence on this earth. I hope to go out with a total of 0 kills, if possible. I don't even have any interest in learning how guns work, really. Hopefully I don't ever have to do that either. Even if I was in a situation where I needed to use one, I'm not sure I could. Like, eventually I would learn to, but if it was on the spot, no, I probably wouldn't succeed at pulling the trigger. I like to think that this level isn't real. That's my headcanon for what's happening right now. We blew up the missiles, and this level just... You know, I was going to make fun of that guy for his absolutely insane tactic of just running straight up to me like that. What a dumb idea, but it worked, so what does that say about me? I swear I just saw a guy rise from the dead, but then he's not there anymore, so maybe he never did rise from the dead, and I just imagined it. I like the part in this game where you take cover behind something, and then you come out of cover, and you shoot a dude, and he falls over. I do like that part of this game. I understand that there are many parts to this game. That's the part that I'm fondest of, personally. Is this game getting more difficult? I can't tell. Like, for the life of me, when I look at this level design, I cannot tell whether it's actively more challenging than anything that has come previous to it. I can tell that I saw a guy over there, and I want to not get shot by him. He was very polite to not shoot me back. He had ample time to do such. Really? You know, that radar? Really no excuse not to be using it. It's right there. It tells me exactly where the enemies are. I'm gonna throw a grenade. He's running toward it. Right? Like, he was running toward it. Not that it killed him, but it could have. I feel like there was a high chance that it could have. I'm pressing the kill button so many times. I was pressing the kill button so many times. This time, I've got... That's a bad helmet. Or did it go under the helmet and into his neck? Aw. You know what I'm going to try and do? Is sprint. I'm going to sprint for it. Alright, here we go. Alright, that's one. It didn't work out so good. I'm going to try one more time, and then I'm going to go back to playing the game the way you're supposed to play it, alright? This isn't a 3D platformer. I'm not here to try hard my way to victory. Oh, there's cover right here. Is this box going to blow up when he shoots it again? Because it got dented pretty hard. Who's shooting me right now? You know what? I'm going to go back to my sprinting plan. Alright, I'm doing well so far, even though this hallway is absolutely flooding with bullets right now. I don't know where from. How many of the enemies back there still know that I'm around? I mean, all the dots are red. But they don't seem to be pursuing me for one reason or another. That's not quite cover. I understand it might have seemed like cover to you, but you were still exposed. Very much so. Alright, it's auto-saving, so I'm just going to bolt and see what comes of it. It seems to be going really well so far, this strategy. I'm not necessarily bored, but I did get curious. I did get immensely curious of how much I could get away with. What's in here? Ooh. Gimme. Yeah. And please reload this the rest of the way. Thank you. Got him. I do wonder whether the enemies with helmets are actually any more resistant to bullets. Poke your head out. Come on. Come on. Oh, wrong way. Alright, you know what? You remember that thing where taking cover? I think I'm going to do that thing where taking cover. There we go. Sprint and duck. Alright, I guess we're back to normal. So I'm well lasted. Not that this isn't fun, but it was good to try something different for a minute. Alright, is there anything over... any way I can shoot? No, please. Okay, gonna get behind this box real fast and then throw a grenade that way. Try and flush him out. Or he'll die. Alright, dying's good. Dying's better than being flushed out. I'll take dying. There we go. That's me engaging in some... Oh god, he's still alive. I think someone is out for blood. I'm sprinting. Use? Thank you. That was probably the most tactically intense segment of Rogue Warrior yet. And it could have been avoided if I just hung back a little more and was more patient. I will hand it to this game, unlike I will hand it to this game. Unlike Time Splitter's Future Perfect, the enemies aren't just running into bottlenecks and dying. They are in fact engaging in some sort of artificial intelligence. The fact that I compared this to Time Splitter's Future Perfect probably put me on the list. Probably put me on someone's list. And it's a list that I'm proud to be on. You know, I don't like this idea that some art is considered so good that it's untouchable to criticism. As I was saying, I don't like the idea that some art is so good that it's untouchable to criticism. I think that all art, in the same way that it deserves its fair shake, deserves to have its flaws illuminated. We should be honest with ourselves and with art. I am enjoying playing this game way more than Time Splitter's Future Perfect. The characters aren't barking in my ear as much, telling me what to do. Like the fact alone that I haven't had a bit yet where I walk onto a train car and there's very visibly an anti-air battery, and the NPC is like, look, an anti-air battery. And then I go press the button that turns on the anti-air battery, and she's like, you did it, you turned on the anti-air battery, the helicopter is dead. I hated that segment in Time Splitters. It felt like I didn't do anything. It felt like I turned on an event trigger, and I was being thanked for it. It's the kind of situation that Stanley Parable makes fun of, you know? And I feel less of that in this game, at least. I'll put charges on the remaining missiles. There are more missiles. That's why we're here. Because there are yet more missiles. Lesson learned. You know, it's sort of sad. This, oh yes, please use. That this is, I've waited so long to play Rogue Warrior. Like, I might have even been I think it might have been aware of it as far back as 2011 and interested in playing it. That's before I even started my YouTube channel. Though I would have liked to have started it back in 2011. I certainly had the idea to start it well before I actually did. And in 2011, instead of my channel, I believe I primarily engaged in writing stuff about video games. And then when my channel came out, I say. And then when I debuted my channel, I tried to continue writing for a bit, in the sense that I would publish blog posts in tandem with some of the videos, or make blog posts about things that I didn't think should get a full video, but that died out pretty fast. And honestly, excuse me. And honestly, there's not much reason for that functionality anymore, because whenever I have opinions on something now, I write a script, and that script gets turned into a video, and let me off the cover, please. Thank you. Even if I die now, at least I've died doing what I wanted to do, which is stabbing that man. But yeah, when I have an opinion on something now, I just... when I have an opinion on something now, I just write it all down. Turn it into a video script, turn it into a video, and that's it. And the format that I have now, where I script videos and then perform them, and that's it. I say that's it. There's like 6 steps to the process, and all of them are intensive in one way or another. It's still much less... I swear I shot that guy in the head. That's still much less difficult on me than what I'm doing right now. Because even if what I'm doing right now is overall less labor, it doesn't sit as well with... It doesn't sit as well with not only my own goals for the kind of content I want to make, but I'm a weird person, and this just feels like it's not representing my thoughts in as accurate a light as I would prefer. I'm probably just using the wrong gun for this situation. Like, I have a one-shot, one-kill gun right here that I could be using instead. Like, maybe it's a little ridiculous to be using it at this range, but it's effective.
Here comes the boom. Got you like a fish.
That's you know, there's 1, 2, I'm not gonna count how many bullets are in there. But there's so many more men I can kill. Is it really safe to be shooting bullets in here? It seems like not, maybe. Like, maybe this is bad. I know that might not seem like a terribly original or thoughtful take, right? But they can't all be bangers. For all I know, there was a cutscene that explained why it's okay to be shooting in here right now. Or maybe it just never was dangerous to be shooting in here to begin with. And I am ignorant about how missiles work. Thank you. That was very beneficial, you standing right there and taking those bullets like that. I wouldn't have done it myself if it were avoidable, but you made my life much easier. Alright, let's carefully scoot our way forward here. This has serious end-of-game vibes to it, this whole section. Just corridor after corridor of dudes. Boop. Is this it? Game's over? I think. Yep, okay. Those are the credits. Kind of an anticlimax. Not that, you know, like I could tell that we were nearing the end of the game because those were just long, narrow corridors full of men. But a bit anticlimactic. I would have liked to have fought one helicopter boss at least. But anyway, that's a Rogue Warrior. After all this time, I finally played a Rogue Warrior. Something to cross off my bucket list. I'm probably going to end up playing it again someday, but probably not going to make any more videos on it. I think this is, like, as much as I was saying earlier, that I wasn't able to give it the critical attention it deserved. I think I couldn't say too much more about its game design, right? Like, it functions. There are a couple places where I thought the level design was genuinely creative. There's nothing extremely bad about it. It's a perfectly workable video game. But, writers, Rebecca Levine, Paul Mackaman. I'm going to have to remember that. I'm going to have to look them up. But anyway, that was Rogue Warrior. Thank you for sticking with me. I had a good time. I enjoyed Rogue Warrior. I'm not going to tell you whether it's good or bad. I don't care to make that kind of judgment about it. I'll see you around.